Kane Wommack joins us now. He's actually one of the guys who actually knows this show exists because when he was the head coach at South Alabama, he was kind enough to jump on the show with us occasionally. And now here you are in person with us, man.
Yeah, great to be on with you guys. You know, y'all twisted my arm enough at South, right? That, you know, no, it was great. It was awesome to get on with y'all. And you know, it's a new role, something different, something that I'm certainly familiar with, and I'm excited to be a coordinator again and do all that. But it's nice to see some familiar faces.
Well, yeah. I was there at the signing day event, and you joked about how nervous you were going to be with when you were going to teach. Basically install your defense with Nick Saban.
Yeah.
Has that happened yet?
It has happened. In fact, our second in-person meeting happened again this morning. So we're ripping and running through some of the
Were you late?
And all those things. I was promptly early. You know, I certainly, you know, I told my wife I was like cramming for a final the night before, making sure that all my cut-ups and everything was ready to go for that meeting. But Coach has been awesome. I mean, he really he's been helpful. He's honest, you know, gives me his real thoughts. I ask him real questions. I want to know this team, right? I want to know what he envisioned, what he built from a defensive perspective, obviously, and how to best kind of, you know, take what was done the last 17 years and how they've evolved over 17 years to the point they are now, and how we best need to make that transition from a defensive scheme. You know, there's a ton of carryover in what we do and what Coach Saban has done. You know, my dad was a longtime defensive coordinator in the SEC. Dave Wommack had great defenses, was kind of one of the originators of the 4-2-5 defense.
Right.
But we are a little bit more of a 3-4 nickel defense. That's really what Coach Saban has been the last few years, where they're able to move in and out of 4 down and 3-4. And so there's a lot of carryover, but I want to make sure that I kind of minimize you know, some of the things that our players are going to have to learn so that I can, you know, understand their verbiage as well.
So I've been a Kalen DeBoer fan for a long time. These guys will tell you when Saban made the announcement, I was like, home run would be Kalen DeBoer. Yeah. And then it happens, and Alabama fans, some are questioning, why do you like DeBoer? And I would point out the fact the guy has won absolutely everywhere he's been. You saw what he just did at Washington. But now I use the Kane Wommack factor. I'm like, this guy left a sitting job in the Sun Belt at South Alabama, incredible facilities, just a great position to be in as a young head coach. He had all of his confidence to take everything he's worked for to go back and work with Kalen. So I just use you as the example now.
Well, that's good. I appreciate that. You know, I remember, you know, I remember when Coach Saban retired, and in my mind, my head coach brain, right, all I'm thinking about is my team, right, in Mobile, and that's all that matters. And I'm going, man, I hope nothing changes here. You know what I mean? I just need to keep my staff and everybody in place and all this stuff, right? And then how quickly, you know, Kalen calls me, I think it was the next morning, then, you know, they were interviewing him in the process, and so, you know, we're friends, right? And so he's, you know, I'm talking through some of the things and about Alabama and what I know and all this stuff, just helping kind of in you know, interview prep, if you will. And then, you know, to go from that to, you know, where we are now. When the opportunity came up and it got to the point to where, okay, Kalen's here and wants, you know, me to join on as a defensive coordinator, it was just an opportunity I couldn't pass up. You know, I believe in Kalen as much as anybody. I think he's the most genuine person that I know in college football. He's a friend. He's trusted. He's a tremendous offensive mind. He's a tremendous football mind. And that's why I always, as a defensive coordinator, enjoyed being around him, because he sees the game as a head coach, right? I mean, that's what he did. That's where he cut his teeth, right, in those years in Sioux Falls as a head coach and seeing it from a big picture. So he always sees the game, right, through that big picture lens. And so as a defensive mind on the opposite side of the ball, right, it was always great to bounce ideas and thoughts off of him. And so to do all those things in Tuscaloosa at Alabama, you know, after all the things that Coach Saban has built, and to be able to take that standard on and take that tradition on, it was an opportunity I wasn't going to turn down.
Nick Sheridan was with us earlier. He made it sound like your wife made the decision that he and Nick's your wife and Nick's wife are such good friends.
They are. They're good friends by far. Melissa, my wife, is the more impressive person in our marriage. Anybody that's met the two of us, Nick and I. It's interesting. I mean, the last time I was calling plays was at IU. It was at Indiana in 2020, and Nick Sheridan was the offensive coordinator. And so, we certainly have hit the ground running. We don't cut each other much slack. We get after each other pretty good and have that kind of friendship and relationship. That cuts down on a ton of, when you get a new staff together, right, and we're all coming from different places, different experiences, right, you're kind of feeling each other out, right? When you have the offensive and defensive coordinator and the head coach that have all worked together, that really cuts down on some of the just, question marks and feeling each other out and all that stuff. And so I get after Nick pretty good. Did you get his day one install from him yet, formationally, what he's putting in?
We've been
stuff?
talking about it. If you'll hang out and break, that's all we talk about.
That's right.
Okay,
yeah.
all right. Yeah.
I joked with him about 4 verts on Madden, and I think he thought I was serious.
Yeah, too.
That is nothing like Madden.
That's when he got up and left.
Was that this idiot?
Yeah, you're going to realize I know nothing about football.
I'm a defensive guy, so is that not what they do? They just don't pick Madden plays, and they just X goes to Y.
That's exactly
circle
right.
B,
Just blitz.
I assume that's what they've been doing for
See,
years.
you get us,
but,
man. You know the show that I don't know nothing about X's and O's.
So I'm still waiting for my tuition refund from South since he left.
That's right, yeah.
I mean, don't you think I got a shot at that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think
Don't even ask.
I think your
He
daughter's
did buy
getting
season tickets, though.
You
I
did.
mean,
You bought season
Yeah,
tickets. You know what I mean? I think we got a little bit of gear for you, right?
Yeah, I got
or
some
whatever.
gear. We did a gear trade when I was down there for Parents' Day, but
Well, if you need some Alabama stuff, I know a guy or two. So.
when it comes to other sports, like I can look at a guy that played basketball, I can pretty much tell you the position he played. Same with baseball, football, impossible. So you were part of maybe the best collegiate backfield of all time. When you look at Darren McFadden, Felix Jones, Peyton Hillis, you were in Fayetteville. Is that when you looked around and you're like, I ain't ever gonna play?
I better coach.
I think.
But I was going to
in
say,
those circles,
I don't
I'm
know if I
referred-
would have said
yeah.
fullback. I probably would have
No, I
said
was
maybe.
fullback, yeah.
I know. But I would have said maybe a center, maybe a linebacker.
wow.
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 You went from center to linebacker. Wow. I'm really not sure how to take that.
No,
You know
but
what I mean?
most offensive line, they lose a lot of weight when they get done, right?
Yeah, that's a fair point.
So that's
okay.
And you're drinking some kind of supplement
right.
that's making you drop LBs right now.
Hey, message received.
Yes.
The diet starts tomorrow. Okay.
You're on it right
All
here.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I had you playing FC, future coach.
That's right. Well, I think if you talk to Darren McFadden, Felix Jones, Peyton Hillis was in that room, and we had 3 NFL franchise running backs. I'd probably be referred to as the cherry on top, that group. Right? The job of a fullback in Arkansas's offense at that time was to get the hell out of the way.
How did y'all not win
So
more, by the way?
Wow. We went to an SEC championship.
Yeah, back when the SEC wasn't the SEC.
Tough. He's tough on you,
He's
Coach.
tough, man. You know what I mean? He's rocking and rolling. Imagine if I call the wrong defensive play this season.
We won't know that.
Yeah, that's
Call-
right.
If you do, call it in the second half because he won't see it in the second half.
There you go.
But, I mean, that
He
was
leaves at halftime.
just and Peyton Hillis wasn't Peyton Hillis then.
Well, we had, so we had those guys, right? We had just come off of before Matt Jones was there, the long 6'6" quarterback. He ran a 4.3 in his
Longest
combine.
strides in sports.
Played,
Oh, it was
played receiver
unbelievable.
with Jacksonville.
Yeah, played
Yeah.
receiver with Jags, and so we had come from that. Well, we had all these star players in the backfield, and we had this 6'6" receiver in Marcus Monk that was also one of the forwards of our basketball team, and we were the biggest offensive line in the country. So we
Jason Peters on that offensive line?
Jason had already played
Okay.
just before him and Sean Andrews,
Yeah.
who were
Yep.
both phenomenal. Jason was a tight end for us. He wasn't a tackle. I mean, for those of you that can picture Jason Peters, who's been playing offensive tackle in the league for 16 years now?
Yeah, at least.
Right? He was our tight end next to a first-round draft pick in Sean Andrews. When a 6 technique lined up against him, didn't matter if that dude was the best 6 technique in the country. He was getting moved off the ball, right? And so those were the years that my dad was the defensive coordinator at Arkansas for Houston Nutt. And then my senior year, in high school. He left to go with Steve Spurrier at South Carolina, and I stayed and played at Arkansas. And we had some good teams, regardless of what some media people would say.
I
but,
did.
Now,
but Mitch Mustaine, I think that year you went, he was 8-0 as like the starting quarterback. Whatever happened to him?
Yeah, Mitch. So Mitch, Mitch had he had a lot of tough expectations put on him. You know, if you grow up in the state of Arkansas, there's no pro team. There's nothing other than Razorback football, right? And so, when you are the quarterback from that state, that you're coming now with your offensive coordinator. My second year, our offensive coordinator was Gus Malzahn, and we brought four players from that team, and obviously Mitch was expected to kind of come in and be the guy. And so a lot of expectations for a freshman to come in there. And we were playing South Carolina, as a matter of fact. My dad was there at South Carolina, and there were some things that he had put on tape and that South Carolina felt like they could expose, and they did. They got 2 interceptions on us in the first half, and so we quickly adjusted in the second half, and Darren McFadden rushed for about 200 yards, and the rest was rock and roll history. So that was it was, I think it was a hard. When you're a freshman, and you have those expectations, there are a lot of things that you're going to have to do in order to be able to manage and maneuver that with the people around you and simply just the expectations you're going to have to deal with. But I thought for a freshman being around Mitch, he did a really good job of that. It's just hard living.
So you didn't call Kane Wommack is with us for a few more moments, the Alabama defensive coordinator, and you didn't call the defense at South, right?
No, I did not. No,
yeah, so this will be the first time since Indiana. So how I talked to Coach Sheridan about that, because I know there's that adrenaline, right, of always being, in your case, always being a player or two ahead of the offense, right? And having that perfect defense at the perfect time. Yeah. That's got to be exciting to get back into that.
It really is. I'm excited about it. I was thrilled to hear that we're still playing with 11 people out there on the field, so that part's really good.
11 good ones, too.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so, I love being a defensive coordinator. I mean, I loved my time as a head coach at South Alabama. You and I have had some conversations about how much I enjoyed Mobile, how much I loved the University of South Alabama. I loved being a head coach, was building that team into something that I think can be really special over the next couple of years, and Major Applewhite's going to do a tremendous job there. But I missed being a defensive coordinator. I miss, having a room, right, of guys that you're connected to, and calling plays on game day was phenomenal, and so, I am really excited about that portion of doing things. And it's not like I was that far removed. I mean, I was in the game plan room, but Coach Saban and I, not to make comparisons to myself and Coach Saban, right, but just from an operational standpoint, the way he did things here and listening to him and how he did it and the way I did things at South Alabama were very similar. Heavily involved in our defense, heavily involved in special teams, constant meetings with our offense just to stay aware of what they were doing. But, the game constantly changes in college football, right? There's formational things, run game, progression reads in the passing game, all these things that you've got to stay on top of. If you remove yourself 3 years entirely and just say, hey, I'm a head coach and I'm just going to go recruit and, hobnob with bigwigs, right? The game's going to pass you by. So fortunately, right, those are the things that we've stayed on top of.
I think a really difficult decision is when you got 2 bad options. So you had 2 really good options, though. And, I mean
you mean in terms of professionally?
Yeah, professionally. Yeah. So a bad decision is if I've got 2 bad options. That's a hard decision, which one I'm going to pick. I mean, you could not have gone wrong. You stay and you continue to build South, or you come here. I mean, but how difficult of a decision was it?
The decision itself was very evident to me of what I needed to do. The process was very challenging.
Yeah.
Right? That's hard. You
facing the players.
The whole thing. I mean, just knowing. Here's the hard thing. The problem in the difference in college football and the way we have a transition, right, in terms of jobs, versus, the standard, hey, I'm going to put in my 2 weeks notice. I'm going to get to wrap things up here. I'm going to get to even acknowledge to people, what they've meant to you, how special they were. I got a 15-minute meeting with my coaching staff and then walked right into a 10-minute meeting with my players, and then I was headed up to Tuscaloosa to make sure that we retained our team and roster. And so those are the things that are really hard, right, to have to deal with. And, you know, I've got 3 little boys at the house, right, and you know, Melissa's now a single parent, you know, not like she wasn't already, you know, for the majority of the year.
But you were at least in the same city.
But at least I was in the same city, right, you know, and sometimes put my head on the pillow next to her. But those are the things, right, that make it really challenging. The decision to come here with Kalen DeBoer at Alabama was very evident.
Yeah, you're a trendsetter though, because you know you did it, and then all of a sudden Chip Kelly's doing it. Other coaches are leaving head coaching jobs to go be a coordinator. So will you be in the booth? Are you calling from there?
I'm a
sideline guy.
Yeah. So when I was 26 years old, I got my first Division I coordinator job. I was the defensive coordinator at Eastern Illinois, where I was Tony Romo played there, Jimmy Garoppolo, Mike Shannon, all that stuff.
Jack State's was Jack State in the same conference at the time?
Jacksonville State was in the same conference.
Old school,
that's exactly right. Yeah. And I called that first season from up in the box, and I was like a duck on water, right? My feet were going 100 miles an hour under that deal, and I was so, obviously the Ohio Valley Conference doesn't have the creme de la creme, press boxes either, right, that you're dealing with, and so sometimes you could see the whole field, and sometimes you couldn't see the whole field. I decided right then and there I would never do that again. I like to see the players' eyes. Maybe I'm giving away trade secrets here, but I signal on game day. I do those things. I want to have that interaction with those 11 bodies on the field. I want them to see my eyes, calm down, pick it up. Let's get going here. Those are the things that I think as a play caller are really important. If you can be the guy that they're looking to on the sideline in between every single play, I think there's a lot of value in that. And so that's something that, we've kind of evolved to.
And I would imagine you can download a lot of information from them, not just about what's going on the field, but how they're reacting to what's going on the field.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I think, one, you have to have a great here's how we teach this defense, and I'm going to get to that point. But we talk about teaching the concepts, all right? So first off, we don't ever teach a player his job, right? You're the Mike linebacker. Here's what you do in cover 3. Right. You're the hook drop, right? Here is cover 3. Here are the things that we do. This is why we play cover 3. Here are the issues with cover 3. Here are the how teams are going to attack it, so on and so forth. Then we talk about situational philosophy, right? Here's how cover 3 is applied to third down, to red zone, to first and second down, to 2-minute drive when they need a field goal versus 2-minute when they need a touchdown, right? All those different things. So during the season, most of our time is spent on offensive recognition. They know the concept. They know how the concept is applied to the situation. Now, to your point on game day, it's all about offensive recognition of what we thought they were going to be and having a clear line of communication between me and the players in real time to make those adjustments to how teams adjust. I asked Coach Saban this question earlier, this morning. I mean, how different were teams the four games prior to playing Alabama to what they actually came in? Sometimes vastly different because of our personnel and the things that we do. That's a credit to Coach and the way they did things here and the personnel that we have. But just being aware of that and making sure that the players know, hey, Coach, they came out in a totally different thing than what we thought. Those are the communications you can have on the sideline.
It's fascinating. No. You can't wait for that first game, can you?
Oh, I can't wait for the first spring practice. So
that's true. That's coming on Monday. Good news. I got good news for you.
No, it's great.
How many more meetings you got with Nick Saban before Monday?
Well, we're not gonna meet again between now and then. He said at some point, I think he's gonna try to take my money on a golf course. So we'll do that at some point.
But you probably text him like 6-7 times a day, right?
I try not to bother him that much. You know what I mean?
He's hot on the golf course now. Be careful.
Yeah, he's got more time than ever.
Played a little bit right now.
That's true. There's a significant disadvantage right now. He has a tactical advantage over me. The fact that I, have quite a bit of work to do up here in the building. So, but I'm it's exciting. It's great to be here with people that you trust. It's great to be here with the resources and tradition and standard that is Alabama football. But ultimately the ball gets spotted August 31st. And everything that we do is building to that moment.
Hey, real quick, Nick Saban, obviously the best to ever do it, but Steve Spurrier, maybe the most dominant because the SEC wasn't as good as when Nick Saban was there. But your relationship with Steve Spurrier through your father, would he have been good in the NIL world?
That's an interesting question. I don't know if I have a good answer for it. I know Everybody kind of handles it a little bit differently. Coach Spurrier was very matter-of-fact about how he would talk to you, whether he's known you for many years.
But he would tell you if you weren't earning your money, right?
100%. You know what I mean? It would have been
love to hear those sound
It would have been
bites.
very evident. You know what I mean? I would guess, right? That would be a trigger that he would use out there on the field. In terms of what he did. He told me when I was coming out of high school, I was trying to decide, where I was going to go. And I wanted to go to Arkansas, but I met with him, to see if I wanted to go to South Carolina. And he came in and he goes, it was just me, him sitting in the room. I thought, this is the most amazing thing ever. I'm sitting next to Steve Spurrier, and he's talking to me. He goes, well, yeah, I've gone through spring ball, and I've seen our fullbacks. We're not very good, so you'll probably come in and start as a freshman. And I thought, you know what? There's no way in hell I'm coming here to start. You know what I mean? For you in this offense, it was fairly complicated. You know what I mean? For anybody, let alone a freshman. But he's just so matter of fact in the way that he communicates. I thought it was pretty good.
All right, he is Kane Wommack, the defensive coordinator at Alabama. It's always good to see you, Coach.
Yeah, great to be with you guys.